Most adult family home projects don't lose time because the team worked slowly. They lose time because the site looked fine until permitting, utilities, and access reality showed up. If you're a Washington adult family home provider evaluating a property for purchase, planning a conversion, or considering an addition or choosing a site for a new build, this video is for you. Here's the risk. You commit to a site and then discover that access, utilities, neighborhood constraints, or permit conditions stretch your timeline and your budget. And that's how cash flow gets squeezed and predictability disappears. Today, I'll give you a repeatable site fit checklist that catches the common gotchas early. It's called the AFH Site Fit Risk Screen, or the SFRS for short. We'll cover the model. We'll walk the 30-minute screen. We'll show the 120-minute follow-up due diligence, and leave with a clear go with conditions, or no go. Here's the principle that keeps projects predictable. The site is the schedule. If the site has hidden constraints, you don't just pay in construction costs. You pay in review cycles, utility timelines, frontage requirements, and conditions that you didn't plan for. And the most common mistake is treating site selection like a real estate decision instead of a permit and operations decision. When we screen a site for an adult family home conversion or building, we're not trying to prove that it's perfect. We're trying to sort it into one of three categories. 1 is a go. 2 is a go with conditions, meaning it can work, but you must resolve some specific unknowns before you commit. And 3, no go, meaning the risk is too high for the constraint that you're trying to protect. And notice that last part. What's no go depends on your constraint. If your constraint is schedule predictability, you treat unknowns differently than if your constraint is outcome predictability. This is the tool, the AFH Site Fit Risk Screen. It's built in 2 parts. The first part is the SFRS 30, a 30-minute screening. The second part is the SFRS 120, a deeper 120-minute diligence pass. The goal is not to do perfect diligence in 30 minutes. The goal is to prevent you from falling in love with a site that has predictability permit and utility problems. In the 30-minute screen, you score each category as green, yellow, or red. Green means it's a low visible risk. Yellow means unknowns you must resolve. And red means usually a blocker or a high likelihood delay. We like to put a label there of if it's something that you've dealt with before, then the risk goes lower because you understand that problem. But if you've never dealt with it before, then the risk becomes higher because you don't know the path. Category 1 is access and emergency response. So you can ask, can the site realistically support safe access for residents, visitors, services, and emergency response? 2 common surprises live here. 1, a driveway or approach that is too constrained, too narrow, too steep, or too hard to turn around. And 2, an access path that looks fine for a car, but isn't fine for emergency response needs. If access is yellow or red, treat it seriously because you can't design your way out of a site that can't be accessed safely. And you may run into issues with your permitting jurisdiction on fixing that, which can be extraordinarily expensive later. Category 2 is utilities. And utilities are where budget and schedule surprises hide a lot of the time, especially on conversions and new sites. We have to ask, do we have a realistic path for water, sewer, or septic, if that's where you're going, and power capacity? If you don't know, don't assume it's easy. You mark it in yellow until you have proven it. Utility extensions, upgrades, and timing constraints are some of the most common reasons that AFH timelines stretch. So this category is not a formality, it's a risk control. Category 3 is zoning, allowed use, and setbacks. Ask, does this site plausibly allow an adult family home use? And does the envelope support what you intend to build? A lot of providers hear it's residential and assume that it's fine. But the question is not just, can you live there? The question is, can you permit the use and the building configuration you need without variance risk or drawn out review cycles? So category 4 is physical constraints. This is your site slope, the stability, stormwater, or critical areas risk. Ask, is there any visible reason the site will require additional studies or special design measures? That may be just off-site. Wetlands and other streams may have buffers that encroach onto your site that will impact what you want to do there. Steep slopes are evidence of drainage issues. Nearby water features or unusual grading conditions often mean more engineering and more review. It's not always a no-go, but it's often a go with conditions because you need answers before you can commit. Category 5 is neighborhood constraints and sensitivity. This includes HOA rules, neighborhood context, noise and traffic adjacency, and compliance risks. Again, this doesn't mean don't do it. It means you must treat neighborhood constraints as a schedule risk because neighborhood friction often shows up as additional review steps, conditions, or delays. At the end of the SFRS 30, you make a simple call. A go with conditions, or no go. And here's a practical rule. If you have more than one red, assume it's a no-go until it's proven otherwise. If you have multiple yellows, assume a go with conditions and write down exactly what must be resolved. And if you're mostly green, you've earned the right to do the deeper diligence. Now let's move to the 120-minute diligence pass. This is where you turn risk into a plan. The SFRS 120 focuses on 4 main schedule drivers: your critical areas and your stormwater complexity, the frontage improvements and access conditions, utility extension costs and timelines, and permit path complexity, meaning design review and variance risk. Then you write your top 5 unknowns to resolve before you commit. This part is important. If you can't name your unknowns, you can't control your timeline. The goal of the SFRS 120 is not to do everything. It's to make sure your next calls, city questions, utility questions, feasibility checks, are driven by the right unknowns. So let's name a few gotchas that stretch AFH schedules. Gotcha number 1 is utility extensions that sound simple but require coordination, upgrades, or time you didn't plan on. Gotcha number 2 are frontage improvements. Things like sidewalks, curb drainage, and access conditions that become part of your permit conditions. Gotcha number 3 is stormwater and critical area requirements that create extra studies and extra review cycles. Gotcha number 4 are access constraints that require redesign of the site plan later in the game. And gotcha number 5 is neighborhood or HOA friction that adds time or conditions. None of this is meant to scare you. It's all meant to keep you from being surprised after you've committed your money and your timeline. Let's recap. The site is the schedule. Site risk becomes permit risk, and permit risk becomes schedule risk. Use the SFRS 30 to quickly screen without getting emotionally attached. Use the SFRS 120 to name the unknowns and build a plan before you commit. And make a clear call. Go with conditions, or no go. In the next video, the Adult Family Home 06, we're going to move from site risk to operational risk, specifically the highest risk rooms, so your bathrooms and your transfers, and how layout prevents incidents without relying on staff heroics. If you're planning to do something outside of your home, additions, conversions, or new construction, I urge you to download the SFRS tool and run it on every site that you consider before you spend real design money. It's faster to screen the site early than to carry a site that you can't permit predictably.